What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new, I'm Hard Money Joe. I've been in real estate full-time since 2017. Mostly what we do now is we lend our capital to other investors, but we've done it all from flipping houses to rentals to wholesaling. So I wanted to take a little bit of a different approach on today's content, and I want to drop a completely unedited, raw class that I just taught to some newer investors on how to formulate your offer, right? And why it's so important to be buying within that 70 to 75% range. And you're going to hear them ask a ton of great questions and just, cover a whole variety of topics. If you guys would like to see more of this content, we can release this stuff regularly. Drop it below that you want to see more of this style. And welcome to have you guys here, and hope you get a lot of value from this completely free, unedited content. Yeah, so what I wanted to do was just kind of break down kind of the reasoning behind we formulate the offers where we formulate them.
Yes.
Right, because you always hear this 70, 75%, right? And a lot of people are, well, how do you come to that number? Mm-hmm. So like the house that we found for Bruce, the ARV on it is $450,000, right? And the rehab is 109.
How about the one on McGregor?
No, this is one in Alvin. We've got them.
Oh,
sits on four. I mean, we're waiting for an appraisal to come back on it.
Okay.
So basically what we're doing is we're going to try to find these deals and prepackage them completely with the financing and the rehab in them. But I just want to show you why we don't want to overpay.
So where do you go to get the appraisal?
A third party appraisal.
Who do you use? Like everybody?
So as a lender, we just hire an appraisal company to go out and do the appraisal.
Okay. Is there anybody you specifically like to use?
Yeah, we have 2 or 3
we
go to who know what we do and turn them around. These appraisals are different. These are something called a subject to appraisal. So it's subject to the work being done, not the kind of traditional subject to you hear in real estate.
Right.
It's subject to this 109,000
Subject to the
being
work
completed.
Okay.
The rehab.
So they'll basically do 2 types of appraisal. They'll do a subject to appraisal, and then they'll do a. This guy fell over. They'll do a as-is appraisal. So they're going to tell you what they believe the value is in its current condition, and they're going to tell you what the value is when it's been fixed up.
Yeah.
So what we do is we package them at 75%. We package them at 75% because we know the contractor doing the work, right? The lender uses this number. You hear LTV.
Loan to value. Yep.
That's loan to value. The lender uses this number to protect themselves, right? Because they're leveraging 75% of that asset all in. Really meaning that if they had to go back and take over the property, they could still get all their capital back out, right? If they resold the property or had to foreclose on the property, they could still, at least get their investment back from the business. So most lenders do not do 75% LTV, right? Here in Houston, it's still pretty competitive, but the most common LTV you'll see in Houston is 70% LTV. So this just allows us to bump up that leverage a little bit, and by bumping up the leverage, what you're doing is just reducing your cash to close, right? So that's one of the most important things when you get into it, and why this number, by buying it at this number, is so important.
That's 75.
Because what happens is, the less money you bring to closing, the greater your return on your investment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're only bringing 20,000 to the table, but you're making 70,000, well, your cash on cash return for that investment is infinitely better than bringing 50, getting that 50 back, and then making 70. Right. It's just not as an attractive of an investment. What you always want to be looking at is can I make more money taking that money and putting it somewhere else? Because there is risk to flipping.
Yeah.
Right. You've got contractor issues. You've got delays. You've got the market.
It just sits there. That one guy said it sat there for 6 months. Remember?
Yeah. I mean, nowadays the market's pretty soft, right? So it just sits there. So what I generally do is I break a flip down into 3 sections, right? What I do in these 3 sections is this is your first stage, this is your second stage, and this is your third stage. This is the cash to close or upfront cost. This is your holding cost, and this is your selling cost. Right, so you got 3 stages within that. So your out of pocket is these 2 stages, right? Your cash to close and your holding cost. So your cash to close is completely dependent on this number right here. But in your cash to close, you have other costs too, right? So you have the difference in leverage. You've got the appraisal. You've got the survey. You've got the points. You've got the any prorated taxes you have to pay.
Yeah, the points. Points is what you pay on the loan, right? It's like
Yeah,
three
points
points.
is what so we have two ways to make money as a lender.
Yeah.
One is the points, and the second one is the interest over the lifetime.
And what's an average point?
Well, a point is just a percentage.
So what is the average? Like 3, 4, 6? What's that? Like when you see
2 to 3.
2 to 3?
is
Okay.
typical.
So
Yeah.
just so someone doesn't get burned by someone trying to take advantage of them.
Yeah, if someone comes to you and says they're charging 4 points, most likely they're brokering the capital.
Okay.
Because they're taking that loan, they're going to a direct lender, and they're saying, hey, I've got this loan nice and pretty for you. I'm charging you 4 points, but I know you charge 3 points, so that broker's going to get a point.
But the average market's 2 to 3.
2 to 3.
Okay.
Yeah, in this market. Now, some states are different. Some states
Yeah.
will only loan like 60% LTV. They'll charge 4 or 5 points. It really depends on the market that you're in. So
Okay.
I know a lot of like East Coast lenders, they're leveraging way down. But we're really competitive here. If I didn't offer 70 or 75%, it'd be very difficult to get business because there's so many lenders out there that would go and offer it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you have your appraisal, you have your survey, you have your points, you have your taxes, you have escrow fees.
And this is all up front, right?
Yeah, this is up front. You have title costs. And then what's most important is you have the difference in leverage. Okay, that's the real killer. So I would just put leverage difference here. Okay, so if we just do a quick calculation on here, right? Appraisal, let's say 450, survey 400, points. We'll base it off this loan right here, right? So if your loan was 450,000, we times that by 75%. That's a loan of 337,500. That's the total loan amount.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're taking out that rehab from there, right? So we're going to take out the 109,000, and this is an escrow, right? So we're releasing this 109,000 in draws as the work gets done, but we're not bringing this money up front to help you with the purchase.
Okay.
What we're bringing you to help you with the purchase is this number here, the 75%, minus this 109. Okay, so how much do we have?
228,500.
Yeah, he's good at math, better than me. So 228,500 is what we'll bring to fund the purchase. So if you're buying it at 75%, what are you buying it for?
We got times up.
Well, we just did
450.
No, 228,500.
Okay.
This is your purchase price, right? This is how much we'll loan, but this is also how much you're structuring your purchase price at 75%.
So the purchase price is 228,500 for this specific deal.
Correct. Yeah, that's what we're trying to. That's what we're trying to get it to is 228,500. And why do we do that? Because it wipes out this leverage difference. We're funding 100% of the purchase and 100% of the rehab. If you're buying it at 228,500, the only thing you're bringing to closing cost are these. So we've got
all the fees and all that.
exactly. So you got like 45, 70 here in points. You've got, let's say 500 in taxes. Let's say 500 in escrow fees, and then let's say another 2,000 in title costs. So you've got 2, 3, 7. What is this? 450 plus 400 plus 4570 plus 1,000 plus 200. So here you're only bringing, just kind of rounded up to $7,000 at closing. That's all you're out at closing, right? It might be a little bit higher just with the little junk fees and everything, and you have to get insurance on the property.
Yeah, I think a good range would be 7 to 10K, right?
Yeah. So let's say insurance. Let's say another $2,000.
Right.
So we're at we're at 9,000 right there. So 10 to 15K to own a house which is worth 450.
So if just I guess for some people watching, you said yes, it is the way my brain would think is if it's only $10,000 to get a property so lucrative like that, why don't you do it more? And I guess the answer was what we learned last video was because you have a lot of mortgage payments, right?
That's one of them, right? Because that's your second cost. So what's your holding cost?
Okay.
Right? So average cost. So we do the loans at 12%, and that's not amortized. So you're not paying.
What does amortizing mean?
Amortized is when you get a mortgage, and your monthly payment is paying both down that principal balance, right? So this is the principal balance,
Yeah.
228,500, and then you have the interest on top of that.
Okay.
Amortized is paying both of those. So have you ever heard of the term PITI?
No. What is PIC?
Principal, interest.
Yeah, principal, interest, tax, insurance.
Principal.
So when you pay your mortgage, they take one payment, and they're paying these on your behalf.
Yeah, it splits up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So with a hard money loan, you don't have this. It's just interest, tax, insurance, right? There's no principal you're paying
It's an
down.
interest only.
It's an interest only loan.
Yeah, that's the thing about a hard money.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's work out the 12% on 228,500. Right.
Yeah.
So you just take out that 228,500,
Mm-hmm.
and you times that by 12%, and then you divide that by 12. So your holding cost here is 2,285 a month.
That's for the mortgage or just for the loan?
That's for the loan, which is the mortgage.
Oh, the loan is the mortgage.
The loan is the mortgage.
Okay, I think that too.
No,
Ooh.
right? So this is your holding
Yeah, that
cost.
was only one. So,
Okay, cool. That's not bad.
So, but here's where it swings quickly, right? Because the
Yeah.
needle can swing pretty quickly.
Because you're paying that holding a month.
Is this 228? That's the max we're gonna loan, right?
Yeah.
But what if you bought this for 250? Right?
Negative equity.
Well, it's not necessarily negative equity, right? But what's going to happen, because you're 220, you're putting in 109, you're still only in for 259, or sorry, 359,
Oh yeah, the
right?
difference.
So you're not necessarily negative equity, but what happens that 228? What happens to this additional 22,000?
Yeah.
This additional 22,000 now comes over to this line item right here, because we're only leveraging the 75%. So with this 22,000 here, my $10,000 at closing here immediately became what? 30,000 plus.
Right.
Okay?
Oh wow.
So that's how it moves pretty quickly. So
You make your money when you buy.
you make your money when you buy, sure.
Yeah.
But that's how, by using kind of that leverage, it's so much. So like the property where you were going to offer 175 on, and 140 was a better offer, 140 would have been all in at 75%. 170 would mean that you're bringing an extra $30,000 to closing.
Oh.
So the reason
But
why,
is it sometimes okay to do that if you're going to make the money back or no? Is it never okay
I mean,
to
you
do
can
that?
do it, and especially if you're trying to scale,
What does that mean, scale?
to build up more and more. Like
Expand.
in house flipping, there's so many different models of people that do it, right? There's mom and pops
Yeah.
who might flip 2 houses a year, but their capital can only extend so far, right? And they want to maximize each flip, because anything you pay over is just going to affect your bottom line when you sell it, right? So they need to make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a single flip because they're only doing 2 or 3. Right, and they can't take all their capital and put it all into the property when they close the property.
Right.
But there's also institutional investors who are happy to only make 10,000 or 15,000 because they have everything systematized, right? And they're doing 30 flips a month,
They're doing
20
volume.
flips.
They're
a
doing
month.
volume.
So they don't
Right.
need to make the full amount, and they have all this capital coming in, these investors coming in.
Right.
So if they have to bring 30,000 to close, it's no real, no biggie. Or they've got investors funding the whole thing anyway, and they're not using hard money to leverage. They're just buying everything cash, right? So they're okay with a much smaller rate of return because they need to scale their business, and it's harder to find the properties that are discounted.
Like if it was a property for like in my budget cash, is it better sometimes just to buy cash and do it yourself, or is it better
No.
to keep the money right?
Well, here's why it's not. bad.
OPP. Other people's.
Well, it's actually, you get a better return by leveraging your money.
Okay.
And I'll show you why. It's because, let's say you've got $100,000 cash.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you start with $100,000. Well, let's say you find a property in the hood, right? And it costs $80,000 and it only takes $20,000 to rehab. Well, okay, you spend this whole $100,000 on that property. Well, let's say it's worth 140, give or take 140, 150. Well, first of all, you've tied up all your capital into that deal, right? It's all gone. So your risk becomes greater,
Yeah.
right, with that one property. But with that $100,000 property, right, and you sell it for 140, you might make 40,000. Obviously, you don't because you have all these expenses, right? Let's say 30,000 you make. Well, you've made $30,000 on this one flip, but you've tied up all your capital. But by leveraging lending, what you're doing is you can take this 100,000, and if you're buying correctly, well, now I've got 10,000 for one purchase, I've got 10,000 for another purchase, I've got 10,000 for another purchase. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I'm spreading the risk, but also I'm actually spreading the return, because right here I've spent 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
I still have 50,000, right? To float
For
this.
the holding.
To float this. But now let's say I only make 15,000 on each one of these. Which am I making more on? This 30,000 or 15, 20,000?
All the way, yeah.
I'm making these, and I've only spent half my money.
And, yeah, the hard part, like you said, is finding the deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the hardest part of the whole game is.
Is that because the way the market's changed?
But you want to leverage other people's money.
Yeah.
Because although you're paying a higher interest rate, by being able to spread the capital that you do have, you're making a much better return.
So that 450 you had on the top earlier, that was the
Alvin?
that's the what's it called, comps, right? That was a
Correct.
comp.
So we comp it, and then you're obviously going to get an appraisal.
And so then you'll put in 337, and then after repairs it was going to be and then you subtract those two numbers by the 450, and that's your profit. Is that how it works?
So these are
Right.
these are what we're using to generate the profit. So
Okay.
we've got through this step. Now let's work out
Yeah,
holding cost.
Okay.
So this is going to be your biggest expense in the holding cost.
Oh, don't you also have to give a contractor a percentage?
Not of the deal.
No,
But
to start.
yeah.
Is that out
So-
of cash or is it out of the loan?
So the loan, you remember, you have in this deal we're talking about, you have $109,000 in rehab, right?
That's your rehab money.
Yeah.
So you will more than likely have to pay the contractor something up front, anywhere from 15 to 20% to get started.
Out of pocket.
Out of pocket.
Okay.
Right? So let's say you give them 20K out of pocket.
So that should be on number one. You should put 20K for contract.
Yeah, that's true. It's not your cash to close.
No, but
you're right. Before you start getting money back in.
I don't think a lot of people really, even I didn't even know that part.
And that's how we figure out liquidity for borrowers. What we do is we do 6 months of holding cost,
Okay.
and then we do about 30% of the total rehab amount, right? And
Yeah.
because that's the cash that you're going to need to get into that property.
Yeah.
But so with this 109, you're kind of constantly chasing that first payment, right? So you give the contractor $20,000 to get started, but as soon as he finishes the foundation or the roof or the HVAC, you submit a draw, and then you're getting that money back for the work that's been completed.
Replenishment.
Yeah, you're replenishing, exactly. So you're just replenishing that first draw and the work as it goes
You're
along.
fronting the money from your own capital cash, and then the hard money lender, in this case, Joe.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Then.
That's what that one guy was saying. I'm waiting for a release.
Exactly.
Yeah,
For a
okay,
draw.
yeah.
Yeah. So borrowers are always kind of balancing, and it just depends how liquid you are. Like some borrowers have a lot of money, they don't want to make tons of draws, right? So they'll do it like 25%, 50%, and some of them need more draws. So every like 10K they'll submit a draw. So it's really up to you.
But what if you never submitted it? Or what if you have enough money to just...
You can do. It doesn't make a ton of sense to do that.
Okay, cool. What's the right way to do it then? What's the right way to take draws out?
I mean, you want to just stay as liquid as possible. So
as each
yeah,
step
there is some
happens.
cost associated to draws, right?
So submit the draws after each step. It's a healthy habit.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, after each like big chunk, you could break it down into like 25% of the job, so you're doing like 4 or 5 draws throughout. But it's really kind of dependent on the borrower's.
Then what do you do with the money once you pull it out of the draw? Where does it go?
Goes to you,
You know,
and you're using that to pay the contractor.
oh, then I pay more for the next part.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay.
So you're just kind of balancing the money that comes into what you pay the contractor. Things can change during the life cycle, time of a loan. Things you might find cheaper, or you open up a wall and find something that's more expensive. So you're kind of balancing, what you're paying.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
But the borrower's in control of the contractor, so they're the ones who's talking to the contractor, making sure that the budget and all the line items are staying
Oh wow.
accurate.
I remember I was asking you, like, hey, do you have a contractor?
No, yeah, and then
Yeah.
and then what I learned on that video last time was it's okay to talk to the contractor to say, hey, I'm going to do some of the demo. I'll take care of this part of it, or
Yeah.
to save money. So
And what some guys do is they'll go in there and they'll get big costs that they don't necessarily need the GC to do, right? Like roofing, because a GC, really what they do is they just have a bunch of subcontractors and they mark stuff up,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So if they're getting a new roof for you, and the roofing company who's actually doing it, or the guys who are actually doing it are charging 7, they might charge you 8 or 9. So to save a little bit of cost associated with the rehab, you can always go in there and find a third party before the general contractor gets in there. They can do the roof, they can do the foundation, plumbing, electrical, HVAC.
Yeah, work directly with the subcontractor.
But the way these houses move, okay, say for like a new flipper watching, when you go walk a new property, I mean, it's you have to do your due diligence and get a contractor, get all that stuff ready to whenever you're ready to walk that property, pretty much, right?
So what I've seen is experienced residential investors is they'll go walk a property, and it could be the first time they visit the property, and they already have their contractor with them. Because think about it, if you go back and forth, well, let me come back and let me do this now, and like you're wasting time. And so like on deals like this, to my understanding is like time is of the essence, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be able to act quick. You find a deal, you got the contractor, you're walking the property, you're putting in the offer. I mean, it's like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
You know, because the name of the game is speed.
That's what I was
right?
going to say.
Yeah, and for the speed, you need 2 numbers.
Yeah.
That's all you need to. What is that house going to be worth once it's fixed up?
Right.
And how much is it going to cost to get to that number?
Okay.
So over time, what happens is, as an investor, you get a little bit better at being able to calculate the rehab.
So can you finish breaking down what we had up there earlier?
Yeah. So
I have a
as
picture of it
as
if
you
you
walk
need
the
it.
property, you're going to get a little bit better, and then you don't necessarily need to be on your contractor's timeline all the time, because it's going to be give or take 5 to 10K, but you're going to know if it's a good deal or
Experience.
not,
Right.
You're going to walk into a house, and within 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you're going to go, all right, needs a new roof, needs a new HVAC, needs new plumbing, needs new electrical, needs foundation work. I jot all this down. I have a little sheet. It's going to be roughly 65,000. But you know the numbers work, and then you can get it under contract fast because you've already done the comps on the house. You already know what the value is, and then once you lock it up, get your contractor in there, formalize your bid, then you're good.
Okay.
All right.
So right now we got the 450. That's the comp, right?
Yep.
And then so right now the only holding I'm paying is 2 on top of the closing 7 to 10. I'm paying $2,300 a month.
So this is your mortgage payment. Now, a good rule of thumb, I think we mentioned this before, is it's not going to be to the T, but use just kind of an estimate when you're doing your work. If this property is $109,000 rehab, just do $1,000 a day, before you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Right.
I didn't take a picture.
So that's 109 days. So how many months is that? 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, 3 is 90, so
Yep.
4 would be 120, right?
So let's just estimate 4.
Yeah.
Just
4
to be
months.
safe, right? So what's 2285 times 4? So 4 months of holding.
2285 times 4,
Yep.
I'll let you do it, Miguel.
9140.
Okay. 9140. So this is your holding cost. Now, some people will say, well, of course you have other holding costs in there. You've got your taxes, you've got your continuing insurance, but we're paying those on the front and the back end as prorations. So when you buy it, you're paying for the time that the seller's already owned it, or you're essentially paying for just the period of time that you own it, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you're giving the seller a rebate, like if they've already paid taxes this year.
Oh yeah, you're paying back the taxes.
We're paying them back for the time that they're not going to own it.
Yeah.
That I'm going to own it, and then when I sell it, I might get that rebated back, or I might have some taxes to pay. So I'm still going to put that into the cash to close cost. Your holding cost here, you have some other smaller holding costs. You have utilities, right? So let's say $500.
Oh wow, you didn't think about that. That's a month too, right?
Yeah, you got to keep your lights on. Actually,
Gas-
this is probably a
gas,
little bit
water,
more
and
because
power.
you've got 6 months, right? So
Oh,
or 4 months.
You didn't even think about that part.
Yeah.
Because this is just your rehab. So you've got 4 months on the rehab. Then let's say it takes a month to get under contract, and then you've got another month to closing, right? It's 6 months, right? So that's actually probably gonna be a little bit higher here,
Yeah, it's gonna be. Let's see.
right? And then let's say $200 a month for utilities. You got another $1,200 here. So actually, let's do this as 6. What is it at 6?
That's 1310.
1310?
What's that? 1300.
13,000?
13710.
Okay.
Yeah, 13,000.
13,700. Then you have your utilities.
Plus 1200. Yeah, 14,900.
Yeah.
That's total. That's on top of the plus the closing, which is say to be saved 10.
Yeah, again, we're just showing how important it is to buy at that. Because now if I had 30 out here and I've got 50, now I'm looking at 45, 50K out of pocket until I get my money back on the completion of the property.
So on a $450,000 comp house, a safe bet is to bring around $25,000.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, you got your 10K here and then we got 15K here. This is
got-
obviously a bit of a bigger rehab.
Yeah, total is 24,900.
Yeah.
So it's about 20, just to be safe.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
You could probably you engage it every 400,000 could be 25,000, right?
It all depends
On the rehab.
on no, what you buy it at.
Okay.
Cost.
Okay, so that's scale.
This cost here, it's really forgiving if you get this section here right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you get this section here wrong, it can be very unforgiving because you've already got a lot of capital into that deal.
So
You can't get this money back out until this stage.
109. 109 is the rehab. Where do we buy it at?
So
We bought it at. I forgot what we said.
it was 450 times 75 minus 109.
450 times 75.
So you got these are your three numbers. Remember ARV 450,
450.
rehab 109, and then your purchase price is 75% of this, which is was it 228,500?
Yeah.
228.
You said when you say it once again, just to read, when you say 75% of this is the 450 minus 109.
So this is your calculation, right? This is what you always want to be using. ARV times 0.75
Correct.
minus
Yeah,
rehab.
that's the form I'm looking for.
This equals your offer. So what this means is that when all is said and done, you're 4 months down the road, you have a beautiful house which is now worth 450. It means that you have how much equity in that house? What percentage?
I have no
You
idea.
got 25%.
25.
Right. Because you're leveraged in only 75% of that total value. So it means I have 25% to play with. So having this 25 is super important because if you need to reduce the price, right, or you need to make some changes, you got 25% equity where you can lower this when it comes to selling.
25% of 450.
Yeah. That's how much equity you have in it. That's not going to be your profit because you have all the costs associated.
Right.
But it means that you have enough cushion there to be able to reduce as necessary.
And-
Because it's all about the velocity of capital, right?
Yeah.
That's the equity. That's how much equity you would gain by doing that.
The
Type
25% of the
Yeah.
110. But and then what would be the cash take home? You get then you subtract.
Yeah, so now we work out what the profit is,
Okay.
right?
Okay, cool.
It looks a lot more attractive when you just think 25, but this is gone. The holding cost I'm not getting back.
Yeah.
The cash to close is gone because there's
Yep.
been expense and the cost to sell is gone. So it's basically that 100K plus equity minus those costs.
What's
That's
the
how
cost to
you're
sell?
gonna get your-
How much does that cost?
Well, your cost to sell is, let's say you got 6%, right? Because you got Miguel to list it for you. You have to pay a buyer's agent, right? You got 6% of 450 is what? It's a big cost.
27,000. God
27,000.
damn, Miguel, you getting that much from me?
No,
No,
I'm
he's
only
not.
getting 3%.
Yeah, and
The
you
other
gotta pay your
3% goes
broker.
to the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
But you can negotiate to where they pay too, right? Some of the closing.
Yeah, and now
That's
actually
up to
Miguel
Miguel.
probably knows more about this
Yeah.
than I do now. But it works differently. It used to be just like a kind of standard listing agent is 3, buyer's agent is 3.
Yeah,
But
that's
now
Everything is negotiable. So like
Everything's negotiable.
Yeah, so for example, let's say, you start doing 5+ of these deals a year.
Yeah.
And obviously you're doing more volume, right? So then I would work with you on the commission percentage.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm your guy, and then
Whew, that's,
yeah,
that's a big number right there.
yeah.
Okay,
but,
keep going, Joe.
But it's a small investment that you're making for a larger return,
No, I know.
right? It's just that's part of the process,
and this is coming out of the sales price,
No.
right?
Go ahead, keep going, Joe.
So
And remember, you just gained
I know, Miguel.
in equity.
You got a picture.
Bro, I'm just saying, everybody got to make profit, right?
I'm just God I didn't know he was eating that much.
And you can, like, if it's a beautiful house, and especially in a real nice market, even before it changed, like during that period after COVID where interest rates were low, we were throwing up houses and saying 1% to buyer's agent, because so many people were buying houses that it didn't take any work, right? So the agents were, happy.
It's a completely different market
or
now.
1.5%.
Yeah, right.
But it's a tougher market. That agent might have shown that borrower 50
You
houses.
guys like, don't you talk that 1% market over there.
Well,
You better go somewhere with that.
You gonna go kill him with that.
But yeah, right now it's softer market, so you do want to encourage
Holy
buyers.
shit. Okay, so let's finish out this deal right now. So
Yep.
we're still at,
So I got 6%, but also
Holy crap.
within the kind of the retail market, with the investment market, the investor is generally paying your closing cost and all of that stuff, right? But in a residential market, it actually falls on the seller.
Correct.
So now we have the escrow fee, 500. We've got title costs, so we've got another 2,500.
We said all that was 25, right? Just at holding right now we're at 25 in the hole.
Yeah. So wait, we got 25, another 2,500 in title cost here. Actually more, because policy is going to go up because it's 450,000.
Oh wow.
So let's say we've got another 5,000 in closing costs, title policy, escrow fees.
Okay.
And then let's throw in another miscellaneous just to be safe. When the buyer inspects the property, they always find something. You're going to need to do a little bit of fixing little things here and there. Let's put another 5,000 in miscellaneous, just to be safe, right? So now,
everything is at
and
60.
probably once we go back and watch this video, we'll realize we missed something. But
We're at 62,000 total.
Okay, so let's take these numbers. So what do we got? What do we got here?
With everything total from there on.
We're putting 10,000 here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I put 7, but
And then what do we? So this is your cash to close. Now
that's
we've got-
15.
This is more. So you've got, okay, you're right, 15.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what do we have on the selling cost?
At 27.
Plus 10?
10.
No,
So
plus
30,
37.
37.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't add the 10.
Okay, so what do we have here?
67,000.
30, 40.
So 25 plus
62, right?
37.
62?
Is it, what did you say?
I got. Oh,
62.
okay, 62.
Yeah.
62,000. Okay. So this is what it's cost me to do this whole project. 62,000. So now it's pretty simple math. I've got my 450 sales price. I've got to repay the loan, right? So what was the total loan?
12%. Or no, 3.
So it's 75% of 450.
337.
So 337.
337.
Yeah. So I've got 337, 500.
Mhm.
That's the loan, and then I've got my 62,000 here, right? So what's 450 minus these two?
I don't want to do the last one.
$50,000. Right?
And then minus 62.
I tell you what, that 27 show does hurt though.
50,500.
Yeah. So that's my net profit.
That's not bad.
That's not bad for sure.
You're making 50,000 off 62,000.
And I'm getting this is my net. I'm still getting back some money into that.
Oh, okay.
Because my cash to close is going to be more than 50,000 because this 50,000 is the net, but the gross I'm actually getting back my money. So
You're getting back the other 62.
I'm accounting for that as because if you just took the sales price,
Yeah.
right, or cash to close, I've got the 450 minus this. That's it. So let's do that math quickly. So I sold them for 450. I've got 337,500 to pay off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is just my selling, so I just have to pay this at closing. So what is this? 37?
Yeah, 37.
Okay, so what am I walking away with at closing?
300.
300. 150.
So 450.
Oh, the 450.
150,000. Because 37 minus 37 is cancels out. You left for 300 minus, yeah. All right.
75,500.
Oh, shit. That's why I went to Pearland. Damn.
Right? So I'm walking away with this, but I'm taking out my costs here.
Yeah.
to get
25 for holding
Yeah,
in the well,
exactly, to get to my net profit. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So this is gross, the 50,000 or so would be net.
So let me ask you something. So say how you're so in line with the numbers, can a lender or someone like me just be like, okay, Joe, I'll give you all this up front, like the whole 62 up front, and just set it and forget about it? Or
Which 62?
like the whole, the close, plastic close and the holding?
all of this is going to come out of the sales price.
Okay.
So you're never coming out of pocket this. It's just being deducted from the
I
sale.
meant like the holding and all that stuff. Is it safe for like a lender? Is
You
it safe
do-
for the
you-
investors? Is it safe for them to put like in a separate account for all the holding costs to come out of?
I mean, you could.
You know
You
what
could
I
do
mean?
that if you wanted to, but there's no point of paying a lender up front because you don't really know how long it's going to take.
Okay,
It might
okay.
be quicker, it might be longer.
Yeah.
Right? But then you're going back in your
Because your
balance.
contractor just saves up like sometimes a month. It won't be that long, 4 months to rehab. He's like,
Yeah.
we get it done in about a month. You know.
Yeah, they can knock it out quicker.
Quicker.
Or it could take longer.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not really a good to say here's 6 months of payments. You're just making them as you go along, because otherwise you're going to go back and forth trying to balance it out and figure it out.
Yeah.
But this 50,000 is super important because that 50K, what happens if the market is a little bit soft?
It sits
Right?
there and you lose
And I
money.
drop it 10K or 15K. Well, I'm still making 35, 40,000, and I've already, I've been dealing with this thing for 4, 5, 6 months. I
Yeah.
want to make a profit. Now, if I bought it too skinny of a deal or if I overpaid for it, I can't reduce it that much if I need to before I get to that break-even line,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I want to make a profit because I want a good return on my investment.
Yeah.
So these are the numbers you can plug in, and then I have a calculator you guys can use too, but you essentially just fiddle with these two numbers. Your ARV, which is your sales price, you can kind of move that down as needed, and then you can also move the rehab and purchase price down or up. So it'll tell you your ultimate.
Another question I have: I found properties that are up for auctions that have no liens, no nothing. I've talked to agents.
Yeah.
Like, say if I find a property on auction for like 220, and you see it's worth it. I tell you, Joe, it's worth it. On auction houses like that, do you have to front the whole 220, or can you find a lender for the?
Yeah. So
Is that how
some
auctions work? You actually have to have the whole
yeah.
full
So
amount myself.
with auctions, they'll give you a period of time where you have to fund the deal.
Okay.
So yes, you can use a lender on those.
Okay, you
It's
can.
it's the same process.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know.
So-
At the tax auction, a lot of times
well,
people are bringing a bag of cash.
We were lost.
Really?
Went to a bar the other night. We pulled up on a house auction, a public auction,
Uh-huh.
and they had it for like 30,000, and the house is listed for 220,
Yeah.
and they're at like at 40,000. And I was like, man, I want to jump on this deal, but I think we were like flying out somewhere. I forgot what we couldn't stop though, but it was like lifetime action going on. And we just stumbled upon it. It was crazy as hell. But if I was to buy something like that, I mean, it happened so fast. What do you do? Hey, Joe, this is. Just call you, I guess?
Well, so generally what they'll do is they'll make you put a deposit down,
Uh-huh.
and then you have like 30 days or whatever to
pay it
fund
off.
the full deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
And there's different types of auction, right?
Yeah.
You've got tax auctions.
There's a foreclosure one,
And then
this
you've
one.
got trustees auctions. So that's when a lender or a bank forecloses on them.
Yeah.
When a tax doesn't, and there's certain kind of bureaucracy you have to deal with each one. Like for tax, there's something called right of redemption period. So they do have the potential to come back within a couple of years and pay off that tax and anything that's been put into that property and get the property back.
From the original owner.
Yes,
Yeah.
from the original.
That's why I don't like those.
Okay, real quick. I know time is money in this game. Okay, can you erase that real quick? All of
Sure.
it? And I got a question that will reason why
And while he's doing that, so some of the challenges and the roadblocks that we've been coming across, Joe, has been, putting in these offers on bank-owned and foreclosure properties.
Yep,
And let's say they have it listed for 190, right?
yep,
We offer 140, obviously, that's, $50,000 less, right?
yep.
Those bank-owned foreclosure, and a lot of times they're entities, or if it's not the bank that owns it, it's, trustees and different
Uh-huh.
LLCs and stuff like
Sure.
that. And they're not gonna take low ball offers. So that's gonna be, like you said, that's the hardest part of the deal, is finding the deal.
Yep.
Right? So whenever I started a couple of years ago, I started in foreclosures and bank-owned properties, and we would get residential investors like Bruce, right? And they're offering $50,000-$60,000 less, and it's like, it just wouldn't happen because it's for the seller and the foreclosure, whoever's repping them.
Yep.
In this case, a listing agent, right? Like they're
They don't look
sellers,
too low
they're
'cause
not
they make
they're
less
not
money.
taking low ball offers.
Sure.
They're
Yeah,
just
it's
not
very
taking
tough.
it.
It's very tough, especially on listed properties.
Right.
But if any savvy investor comes in and if they're paying what they're asking and they're doing their numbers correctly, well, they're overpaying for the property.
Agreed.
There's no two ways around it.
Agreed.
So it is sometimes tougher. The best thing too is just kind of give you a little bit of data. When we were doing a large wholesale operation, we would get one contract accepted for every 40 offers, right?
Wow.
So that kind of gives you a basic insight into what you need to be offering on properties. But we knew that one offer, the numbers were correct, right? And that it was going to be
A win no matter what.
it was going to be a win if we got.
And then that's what I've been doing is instead of taking the time to write up the contract and the offer,
Yeah.
I'll call the listing agent or I'll email them, text them, however I can get through to them as far as communication. And I'm like, hey, look, I have a residential investor, savvy investor. We're looking at making a hard money offer. This is our
Yeah.
number. Please let us know if this is going to be something that your seller will accept, yes or no. Some of them will tell you yes or no,
Yep.
or some of them will just tell you to go kick rocks, right?
Sure.
Like we just experienced recently. So
So what? One thing we do there, just kind of to save time on offers, is we would have a pre-prepared packet, which
Yeah.
is kind of synonymous along all of our offers, and it had everything in there, right? It had had the contract in there, had proof of funds in there, had a little bit of backstory, on the flipper themselves on there, or us at the time. It had all the necessary disclosures in there, everything's needed, so it looks real professional. And back then, we used to use a service which would just populate it all for us. Now you can use AI,
Right.
and just it literally took like a minute. So once the numbers were calculated, even now you can even leverage AI to do all your calculations for you.
Oh, wow.
So you can go in there and take your square footage and just times that by a rehab number. Take that ARV. You can use, there's different programs out there which will populate the ARV for you, and then without ever having to do anything on that offer, we can send an offer at 70 or 75% roughly. We haven't put human eyes on it, but it'll at least gauge their interest into that offer.
So the best thing is going to be off-market properties.
Best thing is always off market.
Off-market or wholesale.
Yeah,
Same thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, some wholesalers will try to wholesale stuff off the MLS, but yeah, majority of them are off market. They went direct to seller. They spend marketing dollars to go and get it to the seller. It doesn't hurt if you have a system to be offering on all of the investment properties that hit the MLS, because some of them will stick. If you're offering enough, some of those will stick. But utilizing agents to send you off market deals, wholesalers, that's a good way too.
My question was, okay, now that it's built and rehabbed,
Yeah.
instead of selling it, what are your other options?
I mean, you only have two exits.
Okay,
on the
what are the two
property,
exits?
Which is selling it or refinancing it using a DSCR loan. I mean, you could go and get a conventional loan against it.
Are you looking to lease or flip?
Well, just for the average person who's interested in both, like,
Yeah, so
What are the pros
if you have thoughts, and it's good to have multiple exit plans if you need to, but it's probably a whole different breakdown. We could do that too, but
Yeah.
it would be analyzing a DSCR.
analyzing a DSCR.
Yeah, analyzing if this house, for whatever reason, didn't sell, how quickly could we convert that into a rental? And do I get to pull most of my cash back out? Right? That's the most important thing when you're analyzing a refinance.
How do you, and once again, how do you pull, you get the equity that you put into it, right? Or you get it reappraised?
Yeah, so you would have it reappraised at that new value,
Mm-hmm.
that 450, and then the same thing on a 30-year mortgage. They're going to leverage that loan. They're going to leverage it from 75 to 80%, right, or 70 to 80%, and you're going to get 70 to 80% on that new value of 450, right? But you need to make sure it covers your costs.
Yeah.
For one, you need to make sure it covers your cash to close. You need to make sure it covers your closing cost. But what a lot of investors get really stuck on is DSCR is a formula, which means the rent's ability to cover the debt. Right?
Oh, sure.
So if you have a $450,000 house and your loan is in the 300s,
You'd
right,
be
and
paying
you can only
$3,000.
rent that thing for $2,500.
You live with $500 a month.
Well, no, you're less. So you're going to have to bring cash to closing, a
Yeah.
lot of cash to closing.
To bring that down.
To
make
bring
money.
that down.
Yeah.
So the debt, which is you're holding that debt on the property, and you're considering the PITI on this debt, the rent has to cover all of that debt plus a little cushion on there. So if your debt is 350, 400,000, you can only rent for 2,500. That debt's not going to cover that. You're going to be in the negative. So what's going to happen is you're going to have to bring a crap ton of money to closing to lever that loan down.
Yeah.
So now that the rent can pay off that lower
No, I
balance.
got you.
So that's DSCR. We could like spend an hour on that too.
Debt service coverage ratio.
But yeah, we'll have to touch base on that again. But,
Okay.